Hello and welcome back to the Supercoach Hub AFL Classic podcast. As you can see, we have our beautiful specimen Verns back again. We've got the 15-year-old who just had his birthday last week in Joshy. How are we tonight, gentlemen? Joshy, we'll go to you first, mate. How are you going?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Gonna compose myself a little bit after Burns came into the stream and completely caught me off guard with the new hair, but I like the look.
Oh, mate, absolute weapon. And the man himself, Verns, not only did you have a great week in Supercoach, you've also made a great decision in dyeing your hair, mate. How are you?
Yeah, no, I'm doing awesome. All things are looking up on the super coach front, life front. Feel amazing. Feel amazing. Feel like I'm on fire.
Oh, mate, literally. As we all know, I had an absolute giggle to myself before. It was absolutely just amazing seeing you pop in like that, mate. Very unexpected, even though you did post a photo of it during the week, which was hilarious. We absolutely love it. It suits you to a T. For everyone listening on the audio, I highly recommend go onto YouTube and check out literally the stream of this. You'll have an absolute blast. And if you can't tell, I sound as sick as a dog, so we're going to be quick smart on this one. Joshy, how was your week in Supercoach, mate? What's your rank?
Oh, it's pretty average again. Scored 1992. I went down 3 spots, which was weird to see, single digit rank going down in the rank, but I'm now ranked 8,004th, so not too far off like the top guys, but I'm just slowly sliding each week, which isn't great.
No, it's definitely not. I don't think you're that far behind me, actually, mate. And Verns, well, just brought it to my attention that you pipped me in a couple of head-to-heads on the weekend. But yeah, you didn't send me a message about it, so I had no idea. How did you go on the weekend?
I mean, look, I dropped a 2085, went up 6,400 spots. I mean, I didn't tune in last week, but I did drop a 2,400, had like a round rank of like 500 last week. So I've gone from like 45,000 to 25,000 in 2 weeks and feeling good. Feeling like it's time to make a
Making
move.
moves.
So you feel like you're on fire, so to speak?
Of course, mate. Feel it burning in my head.
Lovely, mate. I scored a 2048, which I thought was going to be not the best, but it turned out to be mediocre, so to speak. And I've moved into 3.3K, which is very handy at the moment. Joshy, we're just going to move straight into your market summary, mate. Hit us up with it. Let's go.
Yeah, so let's start with the most trade in, and the fifth most trade in player at the moment in 572 teams he's come into is Chad Warner. 608K, 3 round average of 138, which is pretty much why everyone's starting to look into him. And obviously, coming off the bye is handy as well. And as Geelong this week, who have, I think, given up the most points to inside bins out of any team this year, barring maybe Richmond and North Melbourne. But yeah, I don't mind the pick. I'm going with someone else that's a bit higher on this list that we'll talk about later. But yeah, what's your thoughts?
I actually don't mind the trade in, honestly. The only worry is when he's not kicking goals. I haven't looked at stats, but I can't imagine his scores would be that inflated when he's not actually, I guess, putting him through the big sticks. Verns, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there. I mean, what, goals in the Carlton game? Dropped, what, did he get four against Doggies? I mean, that's a lot of bonus points right there through goals alone. Like, he was only averaging 103, had two massive games, and now he's 113. So it does make me a bit speculative. Like, can he actually maintain that average going forward?
Mm.
I will say I think I know he's a little bit higher than Goulden at the moment, but I think I like Warner over Goulden right at this stage.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that as well, just because of Goulden's low CBAs. Like, I was looking at the other day, I'm pretty sure Goulden's highest CBA game in the last six or so games is just 38%. And he's really made way for Heaney and Warner. Adams gets a run through there, Rowbottom, all those guys. But yeah, I completely agree with that. It's just whether or not you can afford Warner instead of Goulden. Coming off that bye, you'll probably want one of them. We'll move on to the fourth player, Timmy English, 632 teams of the top 5% of trading him in, and he's now 152k cheaper than his starting price. He's most definitely probably bottomed out unless he has a injury affected game with his 94 break even. But coming off of the 130 last week against the Pies, he looked a lot more solid than he had been the previous 3 weeks with just a top score of 100. And I can completely understand why people are bringing him in at such a bargain price at the moment.
I mean, I completely agree. I literally have nothing to add to that. Verns, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, my only problem is he's got the bye coming up very, very soon. I mean, do you have to make this move? Because if you don't have to make this move, would you not just wait till potentially his bye? I understand it's the last bye. It's a little bit awkward though, but I do think he's going to be R2, so I'm not against it. But I would think that maybe there'd be better moves.
Yeah, definitely. The next one is Lockie Neal. 813 teams have traded him in, and I'm red hot on this pick. I didn't realize how under the radar he was actually going. If you take out the DPP guys in Flanders, Dacos, and also Heaney, he's actually the fourth most highest averaging mid in the midfield, and the 10th highest averager in the whole comp. So 614k coming off the bye, only 2 sub 100 scores this year and averaging 117. I'm really red hot on this pick.
Yeah, I mean, I literally see nothing wrong with Lockie Neal at all. I'm same as you, Joshy, a little bit surprised at not the disrespect, but just the low ownership of him, honestly. Ferns, are you adverse to bringing in Lockie Neal at all, mate?
Yeah, no, I'm honestly really sad. A few weeks back, had the option between Dunks and Neil, chose Dunks, and Neil's gone nuts. And Dunks has been pretty poor since. But I think you're exactly right. Like looking at these guys coming off that round 12 bye, he does look like the best target. Definitely flying under the radar. I think sometimes people forget to hit that average button. And it's like the second you hit that average button, because he's missed one game, he just goes flying up the list. And yeah, after I'd taken a bit of a look myself, Neil was definitely the number one guy on my list.
Wonderful. If you could, considering you own Dunkley, would you bring Neal in as well?
Yeah, so in my round review, I mean, TLDR, that was the play I decided to make, bringing in Neil and Dunkley. I do feel like looking at their fixture, I do think they probably win most of these games on the run home. Maybe they drop 3 or 4 of them to try and push to finals, and you'd think a team winning most of the time they do that through their midfield, and I could see Dunks and Neil putting out good scores through that period.
Yeah, wonderful, mate. I know some people they don't like to have two premiums from the same team or same midfield, so to speak, but I wouldn't have any issues with that at all.
Yeah. Look, I do understand people feeling that way, but I mean, Gold Coast this season alone just like disproves that like that's not something
Yeah.
that you need to worry about. Like,
No, you're absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on.
I guess now the buys are done as well. It's not as big factor. You know, you're not going to be copping 2 primos out at the same round. But yeah, some people don't like it. But as Vern said, the Suns absolutely have disproven that theory so far. Coming in at number 2, I know you're big on this guy, Scoobs. You wanted him a couple of weeks ago, but Zachy Fisher,
Yeah.
1,749 teams are trading in. That's 19.6% of the top 5% this round, and that brings him to over 50% of the top 5% that now have him. It's off the back of a 3-round average of 123 now. He's got West Coast this week, coming off the bye, still sub 500k. I'm still absolutely pissed off I traded him out earlier in the season, even though I've got him back now. But yeah, defender forward, which can be handy if you've got Dawson, and I can completely understand why people are bringing him in off his recent form.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I think it was the week that Flanders was laid out. All my intentions were to bring Zach Fisher in, and I was absolutely locked on it. Woke up from a nap, heard the news, Flanders is out. Literally could not get Fisher in anyway at all. Had to go another option. All throughout the week, Joshy, you were telling me how much of a shit pick he was, how terrible he was, and then it turned out that obviously roles reversed. You had to get him even though you didn't want to, and I had to miss him even though he was literally the number one trade in target for that week. But yes, definitely this week he's coming into my team. Ferns, any love for Zach Fisher at all, mate?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, look, I'm unfortunately a Crouch owner, so I'm just doing a nice try sideways to Fisher. And look, as much as owning him at the start, it kind of sucks that he's boomed now. But look, he was pretty poor early on. He had that sub-affected 20. Like, honestly, trading him early was the correct play, and you have to accept that he did need to go out, does need to come back in now. Yeah, as I said, I'm trading him this week, and congrats to anyone that got that 100K bonus as well.
And I think I read today, I could be wrong, that McKercher didn't train. So I think that just bodes well for Fisher.
That's correct, yeah.
Which is fantastic for Supercoach, because we know that literally all he's going to do is chip, mark, short kick, 100% DE, and that's just Supercoach gold roll.
Coming in at number one on the list, and I absolutely hate this pick, Will Dawson, 39% of the top 5% have brought him in. That's 3,473 teams so far. And again, just like Fisher, that now means that more than half of the top 5% own him. I just don't like it because I think he's probably going to get dropped this week or play forward. There was training notes coming out today from North Melbourne, like the McKercher ones, that he's been training forward at the moment and that Callum Dawson is now ready to play AFL again. So are you willing to bring him in if he's playing key forward, possibly at that price, and given his DPP, it's pretty handy. But if he comes straight out for Dawson instead of playing forward, then you're going to end up with a donut. If it's not this week, then the next week. And in the buys, it's just the last thing that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's that DPP that is so attractive. Like that defender forward DPP, it's absolute gold. But you're right. Notes came out today that he's been training forward. Like, what can we expect there? At best, like at absolute best, are we talking like a spike game where he kicks a couple of snags? But if he doesn't get dropped, what's it going to level out to? Like, is it just going to be 55, 60 max? Like, we know that when you're playing forward, it's not the most friendly Supercoach role. Like, as much as I hate the Adelaide coach and think he's just got absolutely no clue what's going on, I'd almost be more tempted to just go early on Dowling. We know that he's going to debut. Verns has said it before, mate. Crouch is out. So surely Dowling is going to have to get played in his natural position, which is a midfielder. I'd almost rather go early on Dowling than Dawson, because even if Dowling, obviously they've still got a bye coming up, is Dawson even guaranteed to play in the next 3 weeks? I think, like myself, people are just getting seduced by that DPP, especially if you've got Fisher, especially if you've got Sexton still. It just works so well, but you got to be cognizant of the fact that like this bloke could drop at 30 on the weekend and then be gone. So is that really worth a trade? That's my thoughts on it. Verns, what are you thinking regarding Dawson, mate?
Yeah, I think a lot of good points from you. I mean, most important one, it can be a bad day for forwards in a good side, let alone the bottom of the ladder team that hasn't won a single game. Like, it's not an ideal role. As you sort of mentioned, he's got DPP, which is awesome, and it's that basement price as well. Like, there's not many other guys that have a super cheap price on the bubble. And then top it off, he's a round 12 buy player. So hopefully, if you're lucky, he plays the next 3 games and he covers for you on field. Saying that, though, it doesn't matter to bring in a round 12 buy player when they're probably not going to last 2 weeks. It's hard to say. So, yeah, look, I've brought him in at the moment because it facilitates me getting in Lachie Neale. But I'm not happy about it. Like, I would definitely... I want to say I'd prefer Likalia, but at the same time, we don't even know about his job security. It's a bit of a sticky situation with rookies, and I think at the end of the day, that's why Will Dawson is the number one traded in player.
Yeah, like it. That was it for the number one trade ins, isn't it, mate?
Yep, we'll move on to the top 5 trade out, and the fifth most traded out player, it makes sense, Jordan Sweet. Obviously, he got the bye this week, dropped last week for Soldo. I don't think he's going to be getting back in, especially with Dixon and Finlayson and Georgiades, Todd Marshall, all these tall forwards that Port Adelaide have alongside Soldo. You just can't see them playing the two ruckmen. So 13.2% of the top 5% of trading now. That's 1,181 teams. You could keep him if you wanted a very expensive loophole, but I think the best way to go about it is to trade him out to 1 or 2K guy or something like that and just bank the cash.
Yeah, I kind of tend to agree. Like, we obviously thought with Port having the bye this week, like Soldo coming in off limited minutes in the SANFL, maybe they rest him and then obviously have the bye. Soldo comes back in after the bye. We never see Sweet again, but they clearly just rate Soldo so much higher than Sweet. And I think Soldo played all right against Carlton. Like, it was unfortunate that they lost, but he looked good. And that's coming in off limited minutes. I know there was a bit of a scare and people were saying, oh, Soldo's going to get suspended for the bump. And obviously that didn't eventuate. But unless Soldo genuinely has a long-term injury, I don't think we're going to see Sweet again for the rest of the year, which, not looking at it from a Supercoach perspective, it's a bit sad for him because he was number 2 behind English, requested a trade, goes to South Australia. They end up getting Soldo and he's back still being number 2. So unless if he just, in 2 weeks' time increases his forward craft, I don't think we're going to see him again. So I've no issues trading Sweet out. Ferns, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, no, I think you boys covered it great. I mean, the only thing I really want to mention is just because Joshy mentioned Georgiades. Did you see the bump attempt on Boyd and he ducked under it and Georgiades fell over?
Oh, mate.
Have you boys seen the footage of that?
Yeah, he couldn't fight his way out of a wet paper bag. That was absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Next one is Harley Reid. So that one makes sense as well. Obviously, the 2-week suspension. I think they might be challenging that now or maybe tomorrow night. So I don't know if he's downgraded that to 1 or not, but it was probably time to move on anyway. A break even of 121. Although he was going to be playing North Melbourne at home this week, so he probably could have scored that. But break even 121, average down to 85 now. I think you just bank the 250K he's made, and that's what 13% of the top 5% are doing. And I completely understand why people are trading him out now.
Yeah, the only reason why I wouldn't say to trade him out is obviously he's not going to lose cash. Tribunal's over. It didn't get downgraded. It's been upheld. He's still got 2 weeks. So they obviously have the bye coming up as well. The only reason I wouldn't trade him out is if, you've got other fires to put out. And if those other fires involve losing cash, then I'd probably deal with that first because we know, you can't lose cash if you're not going to play. But if you've got no other issues, then absolutely flick him out. Absolutely. Verns, what's the verdict on Harley Reid, mate?
Yeah, so look, me and you had this little debate a few weeks ago about keeping him and trading him, and we all know that I want to hold him all season long. He then went ahead and dropped to 138, so I was feeling pretty on top of the world when that happened.
Yes.
It was a bit unfortunate. Obviously, he's gotten suspended, but look, as you mentioned, he's averaging 85. Like, I have Jack Macrae in my team averaging 80. Like, what? Like, he's averaging better than what I would consider a premium forward, or at least used to. I think
Jack
he clearly
Macrae's
shows he has a
premium
ceiling.
forward.
Yeah, no, he's such a problem. But look, he had 90 at halftime. He has the ceiling. Like, I've already expressed that I'm happy to keep him as a loophole player. I'm happy to play him. Like, the forward line is shit. Run him with a Curnow or somebody. Curnow has a great game. Great. Throw Reid on the bench. Curnow shits the bed. Then just throw Reid on field. And I feel confident enough in his scoring that he's going to probably get a 70 plus. And if you're lucky, he can pop out a 130. So I'm happy to keep him. I understand why people are moving at the end of the day because, they're much higher ranked than me. They're top 5% at the end of the day, and they're trying to make a push. Yeah, I'm trying to get 23, 24 players in my team, like premiums. And I think Reid will be part of that.
Perfect, mate. Make some very good points. Very good points.
Next on the list, coming at number 3, is another suspended Rising Star contender in Sam Darcy. Which, by the way, that rule I just don't understand why there has to be a fairness element in the Rising Star. But anyway, we won't get into that because we'll be going on for hours. 16.1% of the top 5% have traded out Sam Darcy, and he's another one just like Reid who made the 250k. And at the end of the day, you're just going to be happy with that. Bank the cash. His break even's 93 now. Again, completely understand why people are cashing him now just before his buy.
I absolutely agree. I mean, if you're in that good of a position where you don't need to cash him out, then you're probably sitting absolutely fine and laughing. But I just don't see a world where you wouldn't cash him out unless literally you've got other players that are going to lose bulk amounts of cash and you obviously need a playing 18 or a playing player to get to 18 players. But yeah, same with Reid. Like, honestly, it's so team dependent, but there's no issue trading him out either. Ferns, if you had Darcy, are you trading him out?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I traded him last week personally, but I mean, this week makes even more sense if you held him.
Yep. Who's next, Joshy?
Next one's another amazing cash cow. We had quite a few this year, and this one is probably the best, besides maybe Jeremy Sharp, and that's Darcy Wilson. Ended up making 273k, 26.6% of the top 5% now trading him out. But I don't know. I feel like you can still hold this one. He's going to break even of 98, so he's probably going to drop a little bit of cash, but he's got 2 more games until his buy, and in these buy rounds, it's just absolutely crucial having as many players on the field that you possibly can get. And given the scoring ceiling he's been able to show, not so much last week, but in the weeks prior, I'd almost be happy to, with that mid-4 DPP, just keep him 2 more weeks, maybe lose 20 or so K, and then cash him out at his buy.
Yeah, I get that, absolutely. I traded him last week. I reckon if you can go a 1 up, 1 down situation and it's Wilson up to, say, a North player or a Lions player, someone that's already had their buy, and then obviously you can bring in basement price rookie. You do that in a heartbeat, though. I don't think there's any point holding Wilson when you can get a premium that's obviously coming off their buy, so to speak. Verns, are you trading Darcy Wilson, holding him? What are you doing, mate?
Yeah, look, I can definitely see the merit in holding him. Saying that, though, there's just so much money on his head as well. Like, to get to like a Kerno or a Mackay, it's like 30k. Like, it's so easy to do. In a week when you have 3 trades, you could honestly side with him to a forward premium and still do a 1 up, 1 down. So, look, if you do want to hold him, great, but there's plenty of good reasons to move him on.
And the number one most... Yeah. The number one most traded out player is another amazing cash cow we've had this year in Sam Closey. 28.2% of the top 5% have traded him out now. He's one that I held for 1 more week last week, just needed another player on field, and he scored a 47. And that's now 3 scores in the 40s in the last 5 weeks. So for a guy that started really red hot with a couple of hundreds and solid scores in the high 70s, I think it's just time to go, even though he's got 1 more week till his buy. Obviously, with that break-even of 70, there is merit to holding him just 1 more week, but I think just with those 3 scores of 40s in the last 5 weeks and how quiet his wing can be at times, I just think if you can cash him in, like you said, with Wilson to get a primo that's already coming off their buy, then absolutely go for it.
Completely agree. I didn't realise this bloke was the 3rd ranked highest winger in the AFL. Like that's just
it's
insane.
champion data stats though. Like they had D'Ambrosio as the number 1, and I'm like, come on now. Like Golden's better, Dacos is better. Even Jeremy Sharp has had a very underrated year as a wingman. But
absolutely.
That's what champion
But
data do.
Talking about D'Ambrosio though,
Yeah, he's kicked.
Like, how good has he been the last
He's
3
kicked
weeks? Like,
off.
God,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's kicked off big time in terms of Supercoach
I
scoring.
mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
I reckon the Bombers would still have a spot for him. What do you reckon, Joshy?
Oh, definitely at the moment, especially with all these injuries, the amount of times players have gone in for cautionary scans and come out with a strain, just like Red Dog today, it's just unbelievable. And while we're on Essendon's injuries, Parish, another recurrence of the calf. The amount of reoccurring injuries we've had this season alone, it's just there's something going on up there. We need to sack our fitness staff, I reckon.
oh, I mean, you could never get Joe
Yeah.
Danaher on the park, so
Oh,
it's
and now
definitely been
look
a
at him.
problem
He's
for a
Yeah.
while.
yeah, and he hasn't.
And speak,
What has he even missed the game since he went to the Lions? Like it's just ridiculous.
I mean, speaking of Essendon injuries as well, anyone holding Zach Reid and hoping for a post-buy return, you can rub
God.
that out of the books because he's gone for the year with a pec issue. Is that right?
Yeah, he's torn his pectoral, which is just great.
Yeah,
great.
that's terrible. But going back to Clossy, and if we're trading him out, I would 100% advocate for that. Like, surely you can work something out where you get him up to a premium, whether that's obviously in the midfield or on the defensive line. Ferns, do you have any objections to trading Clossy out?
No, if you do trade him out, it's fair enough. I mean, there's a decent amount of money in his head. I think the problem we're running into right now is that most of our good rookies were kind of moved on already, and like the rookies that we have haven't made enough money yet. So if you still are holding on to some of these more expensive rookies and you don't plan on keeping them, it makes a lot of sense to move on them. Saying that, it is into St. Kilda, which give up a lot of points to wingers and these attacking defenders. And look, his break even's only 70, so if you did hold him one more week, I'd have no problem with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I've seen people talking about trying to trade out Sexton this week, and I think that's just absolutely mental.
Into St. Kilda.
Absolutely mental. Yeah, like against the Saints, 36 break even and hasn't had a buy yet. I think really need to look up into matchups, but Clossy absolutely can see him going. Absolutely. Is that the last one, Joshy?
Yeah, that's it for the trade-ins and trade-outs.
Perfect, mate. Thank you so much for that. We're going to move to some questions now. The Surf 420, thank you so much for being in here, mate. You are literally here every single week. Bringing in Henny this week, I have 3 forward upgrades to go to complete my team. So who should I target next, given I have Henny, Zorko, and Flanders currently? After that, it's Steele and Oliver out. Oh, God. Next week... Oh, that's tough. That's tough. Maybe I'd almost try and I know Heaney's had his buy, but I'd almost be tempted just to play the break-even game and get Dylan Moore in. I know they're a different caliber of players, but if cash is going to be an issue, I'd almost want the bloke with the lower break-even. But obviously Heaney's had the buy. Yeah, that's a tough one. Joshy, who would you target, mate?
I think you might be right with Dylan Moore. I got Charlie Kerner the other week, which I'm still pretty happy with, but obviously missing out on that massive Moore score was a bit hard to watch. But the reason I did actually not look at Moore is because I know he can score those massive scores. Like if you look at his stats this season already, if you take out the one that he just had on the weekend, he had a 140, 136, 116, and 104 throughout the season. But then you're also looking at games of 44, 59, 56, 76, 66, 73. Like he's a very, very volatile and an inconsistent player. And I don't know, if you're playing for overall, then you probably don't really care about that. But if you're playing for any cash leagues, I'm just not sure he's the one that you really want to get because he's very volatile and he could really cost you a game there.
Yeah, absolutely. Verns, who's your thoughts regarding this, mate?
Yeah, I love the Dylan Moore shout. I mean, yes, it sucks that he's so inconsistent, but the good news is Hawthorn's kind of found some form recently. Saying that didn't really
Yeah.
help, the 3 weeks before this, when they, beat Brisbane beat St Kilda, almost beat Port. He had pretty poor scores in those games. But I mean, looking at the future, they've got Richmond in 2 weeks, then West Coast. They finish the season with Richmond and North. So, I mean, you mentioned cash leagues, but I mean, that sounds perfect to be finishing off your finals. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing wrong with picking him up at all. I mean, it's a hard week for forwards, I feel, because you'd really be wanting to look at these round 12 bye players, and that's Dane Zorko and Fisher, and you've already got both of them. Actually, sorry, you don't have Fisher, so I would definitely grab Fisher.
Yeah, I think you're right, Burns. That's why you paid the big bucks, mate, and you can afford to dye your hair absolutely disgusting colours. But yeah, no, Fisher, absolutely. It also depends on, like, do you watch many Sydney games? Because all Heaney's got to do is literally just fart and the bloke gets points in the ball. Like, it's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Lockie Sims, mate, I think you're a first-time questioner. Is Sexton someone we look to trade next week or hold as a D7, F7 role player? You gotta wait until Powell's back. No one knows what's going to happen. You'd assume, obviously, you assume that Powell's going to come in, but you've got no idea what's going to happen with Sexton's role. Like, I'd almost want to wait and see what happens, because even if Sexton drops, say, a 50 with Powell in the team, I'd rather have that information than trading Sexton and watching him go 100 because Powell's role's changed and Dim is just happy with Sexton doing what he's doing. Joshy, I don't think you own Sexton, but what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I wish I did, especially those that trade him in at 180k or kept him at 180k, whatever that price tag was when he started to pop off. But yeah, I think he's the perfect D7, F7. Like, having that swing, we talked about before with Dawson and Zach Fisher, having that swing is pretty awesome, especially given I think that scoring can be pretty beneficial to you if you cop an injury or a suspension, or even just want to start loopholing towards the end of the season. But in saying that, like you said, with Power coming back, how does that affect him? We don't know yet, but I think it just might be a case of keep him until he scores poorly, really. You know, if he starts scoring poorly, then that's when you got to trade him out. But until he does that, why not keep him?
Absolutely. Verns, your thoughts?
Yeah, I completely agree with Joshy there. I mean, you're going to feel like an absolute fool if you trade him out next week. He holds his position and then ends up being an excellent, like, forward line keeper sort of thing. So I just wouldn't be trading him preemptively. I mean, we just mentioned it with someone like Dylan Moore. You can, like, these forwards can have really poor scores, and Sexton's playing a good enough role where if Moore comes out with a 60, I'd be fine to slap Sexton on field and roll the dice there. So there's no way you preemptively move him. You need to wait for something to go wrong before he's leaving your side.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Verns, this is just a question directed to you, mate. Tony wants to know, how did you end up losing a bet for that hair?
I actually won the bet for the hair. I mean, that's just how it works. Everything came up Vern.
He's won the bet. Won the bet for it. Love that. Love that. Sammy Road, good to see you here, mate. Hey, legends, is it time to just stump up for Zorko now and be done with it? Fairly sure he's got a 125 break even coming off the bye. That 160 is going to be out of his price cycle. So you'd imagine the break even goes up next week. Is that correct, Joshy? I think you're looking at his stats.
Yeah, he's got the break even of 125, and then obviously coming off that poorer score. But I think that might be in 2 price cycles. Was that his most recent score at 66? Yeah, it was. So I think he's got that in 2 more price cycles. But I don't know. I think against the Dogs and then St Kilda the week after, I think they're 2 friendly teams for half backers. So I guess he could pay up the 610k, especially because you got the security of him already coming off his bye. But at the same time, do you really want to pay 610k for a 35, 36-year-old who's got injury history and coming off a 66?
Yeah, I think that's really important, the 66 as well, because you would hate to bring him in this week into the Dogs and he like flops out another poor score. all of a
Mm.
sudden. Like that would be the worst case scenario. Wait a week, he comes out with a 140. You'd be like, okay, it's all good to jump on him before St Kilda. No problem.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Sammy Road. He's just giving a little bit of context. Going Sweet to Livingston. Yep, understand. Harley Reid to Fisher. Yep. Then it will take McRae to get to Zorko, but I'm okay with ridding myself of McRae due to a few too many round 15 players I need to even up. If you're willing to accept that McRae was a failed pick, then absolutely, I'd do it straight away. I have no issue with those 3 trades. In my eyes, you're ditching just 3 mediocre players that aren't premiums. Obviously, Reed's gone past our expectations, and you're getting 2 forward line premiums in, and obviously Livingston for a loop / rookie donut at R3 or F8. Joshy, you've got any issues with those trades, mate?
No, none at all. As you said, McRae's just that far off a top 6 forward, top 6 to 8 forward at the moment. It's not even funny. Like on the weekend, he did come off one of his better scores. He scored the 101, but 0% CBAs, and it was highly dependent on a couple of goals. I don't think he's going to be doing that every single week. And yeah, it's just another player that Bevo has completely ruined.
Yep, absolutely. Verns, anything else to add, mate?
No, I mean, look, as you said, a couple of goals early. He got to 50 at quarter time and basically had 50 in 3 quarters. And that's more realistic to what Jack McRae is now. 50 in 3 quarters. Definitely someone I want to sideways on when I get the opportunity.
Now, you obviously own him. Is it a frustrating own, or are you just resigned to the fact that you're going to be disappointed week in and week out?
It is such a bad own. I hate him being in my team, but I've just got to accept it. At the end of the day, even if he's getting 80, it's better than a rookie coming on for 40 sort of thing. So it sucks, but it is what it is at the moment. If he's my last, once I've upgraded my team fully and I side with him, got no problem there. If I keep him as a loop, we'll figure that out.
Perfect, mate. Perfect. We've got Jack as well. Hey, lads. Great to see your trades this week. In Heaney, Alir, Dawson out, Darcy, Chapman. Sweet. Or because of Alir, job security, maybe get McNeil instead. What's your thoughts, lads? Oh, Joshy, I'm going to let you answer this one because I know you have been all over Alir's job security because there's a certain someone that I think their time frame has been cut down to come back into that Giants defensive back half.
Yeah, so just looking at the Giants injury list now, Jack Barkley's listed as 1 more week. So are you willing to take the risk on getting Illyria in and then potentially getting dropped the next week for Buckley? I'm not sure you could be, especially at 190k. I've been on Aaliyah pretty much all week, but I was actually kind of hoping that Buckley would be back this week to see if they'd get named in the same side. But Aaliyah's played 3 games this season, and 2 of them were without Taylor, and then the other one was without Buckley. And they're a very, very tall back line, even without Aaliyah in there. Like, I think Iden, Himmelberg, Taylor, and Buckley are all 193 centimeters or above, and then you chuck Aaliyah in there at 194 centimeters, and that's 5 guys that are just way too tall, I reckon. But he's pretty athletic, so he could play smaller if he wanted to, but I just think there's just too much risk involved that you're really guessing, can he play small? Does Kingsley want him to play small? Because so far this season, the Giants haven't wanted him in the same team as those other guys.
Ferns, what's your thoughts, mate?
I
McNeil or
completely
Alir?
agree. I agree with everything Joshy said. Saying that, I don't feel good about McNeil's job security either. I mean, obviously, it was a sub in this game, and because it was what Harms got injured in the first 10 seconds of the game, so McNeil basically gets like a full game, and yeah, it looks great in it, but I wouldn't feel comfortable with him either. So it's really apples and oranges. Like, they're that different.
Yeah, maybe Alir just purely because he's had a bye. And I guess, like, how much do you trust Bevo as well?
And he was electric getting them over the line. So,
oh,
yeah,
he was absolutely
the one
fantastic.
thing, yeah.
Like, he was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Jono's come in to say g'day. If you haven't checked out Jono's Supercoach channel, newly up and running, go have a look at that one. We appreciate you so much, mate. Oh, God, I'm going to butcher this. Ricardo Ascenso. I think that's right. Warner or Goulden? Goulden's scoring lowish, but was great after the bye last year. Can he do it again? Really like how Goulden's been saying he wants to just play 100% time on ground. Like that is freakish.
Yeah.
I reckon if balls to the wall and you want to have some fun, just go Warner. Go Warner. I mean, if you think he's just going to kick snags continuously, absolutely go Warner. I know there's a price difference. If it halts your upgrade cadence, then probably Goulden. But if you like to live dangerously, I'd definitely go Warner. Joshy, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, well, I was saying before, and I'm just looking now to confirm it. Gordon's highest CBA game was on the weekend in the last 6 games, sorry, with 38%. And I just don't know if it's enough CBAs to be scoring well enough. Obviously, we know how much of a ghost town the wing position can be sometimes, and that's predominantly what he's been playing this year at times. And I think that's why he's dropped off a little bit in his scoring. Obviously, he's still such an elite player, and he's getting some CBAs to still be averaging pretty decently. But I just think if that predominant wing time is going to continue, then Warner's probably the way to go. But if he doesn't have Neil, I'd even be leaning towards Neil.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Verns, what's your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, I mean, he's averaging 104 this season. I know it's not about Goulden specifically. I know it's not about what he's averaged so far. It's about what he's going to average going forward. But I do not have the confidence in him to even go over 110. So I would not be touching him personally. Warner, I mean, at least he's shown an insane ceiling, but once again, was very reliant on goals, and he's only really gained 10 points of average because he had 2 massive back-to-back games. It's great to see that he has that. Once again, I don't feel super confident, but I think, as you said, just if you want a bit of fun, do it. Otherwise, I'd be looking at the Lions. Or Tom Green if you don't have him.
Yeah, I think we're all Tom Green owners here. That has not been enjoyable at all. Absolutely not. I can't endorse Tom Green just due to my own personal experiences. Trade him in and does an ankle on 5, and that's about it.
At least he wasn't your captain.
Oh,
yeah, wow.
Yeah, that's stiff. That's stiff, Ferns. We never wish that upon anyone, mate. Blues fan, lads, got no jacked up rooks to trade. Don't see Clary or Nico in my future trade plans. So want a sideways. Set on Sheasel in, but also want a pod as I'm at 1K. LDU, Neil, Errol, or go safe with Green. Who is Nico?
I've got no idea. I'm trying to figure that out myself.
Maybe Nick Martin?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
I don't know why.
I mean, surely you'd still think Nick Martin could be a top
He put Nick
6
Martin in the chat. It was.
Nick Martin. Mate, Mason Redman is
Martin.
out this week. So, yeah. I like, if you don't see Clary or Nick Martin in my future plans, I still reckon Nick Martin is a fantastic shout.
Hold Nick Martin.
Don't know. Yeah, definitely holding him, especially if Redmond is out and Nick Martin hasn't hit like a barn door in maybe 7 weeks. So he's getting like 30 touches. He literally, Josh, you know what I'm saying, when he missed that goal from like 3 meters out, he literally tried to boot it into the hemisphere and nearly broke the post with it. So no, you're definitely holding him. But out of those ones, it's Neil or Sheasel. Like that's it. Flip a coin. I think they're both good options.
I think
Joshy, who are you taking? Oh yeah, Verns. Yep.
I just want to say the other thing with Nick Martin is, as Josh has already pointed out, like Essendon players are falling. The reoccurrence injuries are crazy. Ridley's back for now, but I mean, touch wood. You don't want to let that go down. But like
you are going to get so much abuse if Ridley does a quad, mate. You will not be
if he gets injured, I will hunt you down.
Look, I'm just saying, boys. Like, at least Nick Martin's playing games, and I think he'd be a valid like M9 D7. So yeah, hold on.
So who is a good trade-in option? Because my votes Like Green, no, just purely because of personal experience. I think that's disgusting. Errol, no. LDU, no. It's out of Neil and Sheasel for me, mate.
Oh, I do love
Joshy,
the
who's your
LDU
tip?
shout.
Firstly, I do love the bit at the end, all go safe with Green. I do not think
It's not
that's safe
safe.
at all
It's
because
not safe at
my
all.
experience with him has been a hell show, absolute hell show. But I'm going Neil. Like he's been my trading all week. We said before, like the fourth highest averaging mid if you take out those DPP guys, and really having an underrated year at the moment.
Yeah, look, I love the LDU shout. Like in reality, North has a really nice run at the end of the season. They get Richmond, they play West Coast twice from here, they play Hawthorn. They've got us in 2 weeks, obviously Pies, and we're pretty depleted.
Oh, we're
And then
shit.
Melbourne just aren't good either at the moment. So like, I wouldn't be surprised if LDU comes out with one of these banger second half seasons. He's hit some form recently. Obviously, the 152 against Essendon was a bit of a unicorn this season, but he had a good game against Port as well, who aren't the easiest midfield. Um, he's been. I think he could be a sneaky shout and probably a massive pod too. So, if you want to make a crazy push, in that top K to try and make top 100, I think LDU could he maybe be a ticket. So I would love to see you roll the dice there.
Yeah, or a ticket to a 45-second pre-game late out. That's criminal.
Oh, but at the end of the
Absolute
day,
criminal.
does it matter finishing 2.5K or 100? It doesn't really. Might as well take a punt on. I would love to see someone take a punt on LDU. Obviously, you got to have faith in him. You can't just listen to what I'm saying. Maybe I'll do something crazy this week. You'll never know.
Oh, you've already done something crazy, man. Have you looked in a mirror lately? Oh, Jesus Christ. Thank you, Artie Mongrel. Thank you so much for dropping in. Fuck me swinging. Is that Beaker from the Muppet Show? I reckon if Beaker and Johnny Noble had a baby, it would be you, Verns.
I mean, it sounds good to me. Like,
I reckon Arthur's just a little bit jealous of your hairstyle, mate, because apparently, word on the street is he doesn't have much of it. This bloke actually plays for GWS, and maybe he can enlighten us on Alir's job security later on. But can Fisher and Sexton be F5 and F6 sent in from Sammy Taylor? I have more confidence in Fisher purely because of the unknown of what Sexton's role is going to be when Powell is back. Joshy, can they both be F5 and F6, mate?
Oh, I don't know if Sexton can, but as we said before, we just need to see him in the same team as Powell again. But given he's actually played VFL footy this year after starting off in the side, then I don't know. There's still that shaky element to it, but I think Fisher definitely can, which hurts to say, as I still hate the bloke. But yeah, West Coast this week, and he's hasn't gone under 90 for the last 4 weeks. So I think he's going to start kicking off and be a genuine F5 or F6.
Ferns, your thoughts, mate?
yeah, definitely agree with that. And the worst case scenario is in the form he's in. If something goes wrong 4 or 5 weeks down the track, he could be 500K, and you just side with Zingham anyway. So, yeah, I definitely got faith in him.
I agree. All I'm saying is I don't have that much faith that he can be F6, so to speak, but I would not be trading him out this week. As I said earlier, I've seen some people wanting to force that upgrade, but if you're thinking of trading Sexton out with a favourable matchup and a break even of 36 and a buy coming up when you can just trade on the buy, I think you need to reevaluate that one. Arthur says, is Blakey a genuine option? I'm going to say no, just purely because if we read out some of his scores, does this not scare the living shit out of you? Round 0, 117, 91, 86, 98, 138 is very good. That was against West Coast though. 112, you take that against Gold Coast. Then there's a period of 98, 43, 131, take that, 78, and then 120. So it's like a yo-yo, up and down. If you can predict, if you had a loop for him, and if he was 100K cheaper, he's 513K. If he he was 100K cheaper, absolutely. And you could just loop him and play him every second week because that's when he seems to pop. But when you're looking at your D1 to D6, I don't think Blakey's in that conversation. Joshy, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, completely echo what you're saying in terms of the volatility of his scoring. The only thing I will say is I think he's 12th on average for defenders at the moment, and he's also the top on average in terms of defenders coming off their bye. So if you're trying to get a defender upgrade coming off their bye, he is the number one guy on average at the moment. But I mean, we're talking about a guy that is 12th on his line with that volatility. I just think maybe even wait the week on an upgrade or go on another line.
Verns, what's your thoughts, mate? This seems like a real Verns pick.
Look, I'm guessing when you say number one coming off the round 12 bye, with excluding Sheasel as everyone owns him. But look, with Blakey, as you sort of mentioned, he's very volatile. He reminds you of Nick Martin. He loves to chisel a kick. The problem is he doesn't know when to stop when he's not on. And that's probably where that 43 comes from, just poor kicking efficiency. Not a pick I'm interested in.
Lovely, mate. We have Jake Bassar targeting more in English, but with bye coming up, should I grab one or wait till after that bye? I'd just get more. Play the break evens, just get more, wait for English. Joshy, anything different, mate?
Yeah, I think get more, but both do have the bye coming up at some point. But yeah, as we were saying before, English you can probably still wait on with that 90 break even, but I think more is just so low now that if you want to get him, it's probably now.
Verns?
Yeah, I agree. And also Richmond in 2 weeks before his bye for Dylan Moore. So definitely prefer him.
Wonderful, mate. Artie Mongrel says, what about Hutchinson, boys? Thoughts on going early if he's named? The one thing that I hate about this is I'm fairly sure he's not a midfielder. I'm
No,
fairly sure
he's a
he's just a
third tall
forward.
forward. Yeah.
Which,
In
which
terms of
is
Supercoach.
in terms of
Yeah.
Supercoach, yeah, which is annoying. It's very annoying. Because I know at the Pies he was playing in the twos. He was playing a bit of midfield and he was doing very well in there. I mean, I'd almost rather Hutchinson over Dawson just purely for job security because I've seen that Tim Kelly's out, obviously Reed's out, and I think there's one more. Waterman's not absolutely solidified to come back in, although he is a chance. And it's basement price. So depending on like what that 15 extra K can do for you, and if you don't need DPP, I just like him because I've seen so much of him lately. Joshy, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, well, it was hard not to take notice of him after seeing your Twitter when that game was going. It was almost live updates of every single time
Oh,
Hutchinson
it's
kicked
I
a
mean
goal. But
when you are as disappointing as the West Coast Twos, like this bloke kicked 5 out of their 8 goals in his first
yeah,
game for the club. Like, sure, if he's not going to get a debut doing that and catching their attention, like when actually is he? Like, I know it takes a little bit to, you got to build into the game plan, blah, 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 understand structures. But let's be honest, they're shit. They're shit house.
yeah,
Get the kid
yeah.
in.
And I think you are right in terms of his job security should be pretty decent. I think Waterman is coming back this week, but I was looking. Jack Williams got subbed out. He was shit. Petrocelli was really poor, and he has been for a couple of weeks now. And so was Ryan Marich. And
Yeah.
they play a very similar position, Ryan Marich and Hutchinson, both third tall forwards when playing up forward. Only thing that I don't really like about Hutchinson is that yes, he kicked the 5 goals, but he had the 11 disposals. And he has been a low possession player as a third tall forward when playing forward for Collingwood this season in the VFL. So if he doesn't have those goals, especially at AFL level and AFL level defenders, even though they are playing North this week, but I mean in future in the season, I think that could be a problem. But 102K, I think you probably are right over Dawson in terms of a better pick, but I don't think I could do it.
Ferns, what's your colourful assessment of this, mate?
I don't have much for the ad, fellas. I think you summed it up really well.
Wonderful, wonderful, mate. We've got another one from Artie. Where's Johnny Smith tonight? I think he's a closet content creator. This bloke's probably working on his NRL side because he's absolutely ashamed that I literally destroy him week in and week out on the old NRL Supercoach. And we'll just leave it at that because I really don't want to keep embarrassing him. My NRL knowledge is absolutely elite. If anyone needs some tips, you know where to find me. John O'Carroll, thoughts on Rankin post buys?
Absolutely.
Lock. Absolute lock.
Absolutely.
Verns, are you
No, I
against Rankin at all? Yep, perfect. Wonderful, mate. Lovely, lovely. We've got Blake McMeekin. Lads, how are we going? Trades in. Neil Fisher Dowling / Dawson out. Oliver Wilson Clossy. I actually don't mind that, even though I think Oliver will bounce back and literally destroy the Pies on King's birthday. But in my eyes, Oliver's not going to be top 8. He's going to be M9 at best. Wilson's done his job. Clossy's done his job. Neil, you assume he's going to be top 8 from here in out. Fisher is going to be top 6 forward. And Dowling, you think gets an extended run at it, although their coach is as much of a delinquent as Bevo is. So, yeah, I'm probably going to endorse that, but just don't get agitated when Clary drops a 130 on Monday. Joshy, your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, Wilson and Closey out. It's now time. You could hold them a little bit longer, like we said before their buys, but them out, I'm completely fine with. Oliver, I think I'm fine with as well. You know, the D's looked absolutely horrific against Fremantle, and I think Collingwood could smash them as well, even with their depleted midfield and side in general. But yeah, Neil Fisher, I've got both of them now that I'm getting Neil in this week. And the only thing I'm concerned about is the Dowling / Dawson move. Spoke about Dawson before. I think he's either going to get dropped or play key forward. And obviously, you don't like Key Ford scoring, as you said before, Scoobs. But Dowling, he has been fit all season and dominating Sandford all season. And he's only just now getting his chance. I know it's against Richmond, but I just fear he could even be sub. I'm not even going to rule that out. It's good that they play the first game of the round, so you get to see if he's going to be sub or not. But I think he could even be sub. I think he's a massive drop risk considering how long it's taken him to actually get in the side despite his form. But yeah, it's going to take a ballsy person to go early on Dowling when he's been fit all year and only just got in at round 13.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge believer of players should never do a sub. I know the Pies did it with Parker, and I think that's absolute bullshit. Like if you're going to debut, there is no way you should be the sub at all. Burns, do you have anything more to add, my friend?
Nope, summed it up amazingly.
Wonderful, mate. I love when you agree with us. Artie, again. Oh, Jesus Christ. Would Hinge be a good option? I have a mate from Kilmore that's big on him. I think mate should be in quotation marks because some of the abuse I've seen you two slander back and forth, it's not very matey, so to speak. This bloke told us all week that he was going to bring Hinge in, and he backflipped on it. So, yeah, no. Mitch Hinge, not a good option. Joshy, your thoughts?
No, I couldn't do it. I mean, he's had a pretty good 3 weeks and decent season without really lighting the world on fire. But with his buy still to come up as well, and I think his price is pretty high. It's not like he's cheap. I'm so against it.
Ferns?
Yeah, I reckon the only thing that's really lighting up people's eyes is they see Defender into Richmond and they think, is it going to be a 190 game? Outside of that, it's really not a go.
Perfect, mate. And for our last one of the evening, it's not really a question. We just wanted to end the stream with an AFL player giving us some vital information. Lee Kalir will be taken out of the team when Buckley comes back. Personally, I love playing with him, so it's disappointing. I know, mate. I know. And also, we all had the Tom Green injury news before anyone else because Sammy Taylor dropped into our DMs post game. He also dropped in there before training as well and gave us a little live update on how Green was travelling. That's it for questions. Joshy, who is your VC and C?
Well, at the moment, I've actually gone down a little bit of a unique route. I think most are going to be going with Bont, Dacos, Gorn, but at the moment, I'm going Flanders VC against the Saints, which I really like that matchup, especially at Marvel. I feel like that's really going to be a good matchup for Flanders. Into Heaney C against Geelong. We've seen how poor Geelong's midfield can be and the scores they've given up this year. So Flanders into Heaney, the two forwards.
Ferns? Are
Yeah,
you
definitely
getting
think
a little
those.
bit fruity?
Not really. I think those two are definitely a shout. I think I'm going to run the risk with Dawson as the VC into Richmond. Hope for a big bounce back. I think one of the things that we always see is captains step up after a poor game. Pig mentality from Dr. Supercoach is always really big on this. We've seen it with Gorn already a few times this year. He got done in by Grundy. Round 1, what happened next round? 170. They lost to West Coast. What happened next round? 180. Gorn always seems to sort of do that, and I'm hoping that we can get that from Dawson. Worst case scenario, if Dawson doesn't do it, Gorn just got smashed by 90 points against Freo, so expecting a big bounce back into an undermanned Pies team on King's birthday weekend, and Cameron isn't really the most restrictive ruck. When we restrict teams, it's usually on the back of Cox just being like a 51% hit out guy, like wins a lot of his hit outs in the ruck. He's obviously not playing, so it's just Cameron by himself. So I think good chance Gorn's going to go massive. So I'm happy to roll the dice on someone that could be a bit more speculative as a VC.
Are you worried about Dawson's foot at all? That's the only thing that would concern me.
As I
His
said, it's a
foot.
VC. Like, is it really that big of a deal? Like, I think I'm so confident in Gorn that worst case scenario, if Dawson goes poor, great. I don't get baited and taking a 120, and I just get to pick up the Gorn C.
Yeah, fair enough.
Nice. No, Joshy, I am in agreement with Flanders against the Saints. Had the VC on Luke Ryan against the Saints, and that worked out really well. I mean, Flanders is just so consistent. He's not going to. Well, you'd assume so. He's not going to just pump out a 140, but it's wonderful. Like Verns, you're dying to say something. What is it?
Oh, I mean, isn't that the scary thing though? Flanders hasn't gone over 130 this season once. Like, I get it's against St Kilda, but I'd feel really comfortable if that was my C. I'd feel very comfortable getting probably a 120 plus. But as a VC, I want to play definitely more risky with that. And if Flanders gets you a 120 and you just take it, and then Heaney gets a 160 against Geelong, Gorn gets a 150 against Collingwood, like, you're not unhappy with 120, but at the same time, like, it just doesn't scream to me.
Because it's bye rounds. And I know there's only two players on the bye, two teams on the bye. I'd happily take that because you've got to think like the options that are out. Like you've got Jordan Clark, who literally, I don't know many people that would VC or see him, but he's been absolutely fantastic in defence. You've also got Luke Ryan, who literally all he needs to do is just step foot on that field, and it's a 120. You've got Butters, you've got Sarong as well. It's like they're good options being taken out. And in a buy round, I'd happily take 120. And if Flanders, like I don't see them going to send anyone to him. Like Flanders on the weekend, I barely noticed him, and he scored 119. Like I'd happily take that. If he doesn't do well, I'm just going to read out some stats of the bloke that I'm going to see, and it's like I was actually surprised at this. 131, 135, 54, 112, 102, 133, 128, 150, 147, 105, 130, 156. Like the team that he plays for is crap. Is genuine shit right now. But this bloke just keeps putting up unreal numbers, and that's Nick Dacos. Like I mean, most people would have been absolutely happy with that VC or C. with a 156, but then obviously Bont scored 30 more than that. But how often is a player going to score 186 in a game of Supercoach? Kudos
That's my
to
other
them.
question.
But yeah,
That's my other question for you, though. If you're so confident in Dacos, which I completely agree with you, I think that Dacos has been phenomenal. I would almost feel like he's a 120 minimum at that point. So, do you really want to go with someone like Flanders who doesn't quite have the ceiling to steer you off Dacos? Because you'd hate for, as you mentioned, you're happy to take a 117 from Flanders. Flanders gets 117, you take that. Dacos comes out with 150. Like I would love to try and play with someone that's more volatile in their scoring because I agree with you. I'm very confident in Dacos, Gorn, one of them ballistic, or both of them going ballistic.
yeah. No. I absolutely get that. And I won't be taking anything less than 120. Like if Flanders scores a 121, absolutely. My question to you is, Verns, it seems your risk profile is a little bit riskier than mine. How many times have you VC'd or seen Jeremy McGovern this year?
Twice. I've done it twice.
And how did that end up?
Look, pretty full the first time. We know that. It was 113 this week that just came. I actually put the C on Holmes afterwards, which I think
Very
went pretty
good.
well.
Yep.
But,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
get you. I've probably got a pretty skewed risk factor when it comes to captains. Probably get a bit too ham. And in reality, my captain scores haven't been great this year. I mean, even if you exclude Tom Green's 5, which sucked,
Oh,
I'm
that's
still
just unfortunate. Yep.
yeah, but I'm still only averaging like 118 on my captains. Like I'm not setting the world alight, and that's definitely because I've been having some yin scores with these yang scores, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I get that. As I said, buy rounds. Flanders pops out if he gets his average, which is it's insane. He's averaging 117.5. But if we're talking about St Kilda, if we can literally get 13 more points, if that goes to 130, wonderful. As I said, anything over 120, I'll happily take. And Joshy, I know we said there was no more questions, but Jono wants to know thoughts on Heaney versus the Cats. Now, I know that's your C option. Tell him why he should do that before we head off.
I just think like we're talking about a guy that's averaging 125.5 this year, playing predominantly midfield. He's the most used guy for Sydney this season, and like just quickly reading some of his scores: 144, 136, 148, 165, 128, 120, 121. He's a guy that, I think against Geelong, who have been giving up the amount of points that they have this season against inside midfielders, I just think it's a perfect captain option, especially given, like Verns is talking about, his ceiling and, also the reliability. Like he's done it most games this year. I think his lowest score is a 90 or something.
Wonderful. And that's going to finish us off. Verns, can you shout out the consensus team, please?
Yeah, so if you come ahead and join us in the Supercoach Hub Discord, you will be able to put in your votes for the consensus team. It had a bit of a down week this week. We only had 18 on field, and it scored a bit of an 1800, so really poor week. But it's set up well to smash the rest of these buys. So get in, have some fun there, and yeah.
And I heard the rumors are that one lucky person that joins the Discord will get to choose Verns' next haircut, hairstyle, and hair color. Just shouting that out there. He doesn't know that yet. This is the first time he's heard of it. But thank you so much to everyone that joined the stream, is going to watch back through the audio, or will watch on YouTube to actually see what we've been talking about. Because my goodness, did I lose my shit when I saw it. It was amazing. Like us on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Hit the bell. You know what to do. And also check out the link tree. Everything's on there. Join the Discord. Don't forget the TikTok. Awesome uploads there. Check out the boys at Honeyball as well for literally instant updates, presses, injury updates, everything you can think of. Thank you so much for joining. Joshy, where can everybody find you, mate?
Just on Twitter at JJ_SC Hub.
Perfect. Verns, where can everybody find you?
Yep, so on Twitter as well, Verns_SC Hub, but also on YouTube, Verns Supercoach.
Perfect. You can find me at Scobie_SC Hub on X. Have a great night, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. We'll be back next week, same place, same time, Tuesday, 9:05 p.m. Thank you very much. Have a good night.